This is a really easy way to elevate your masculine presence. And it doesn't mean that you're faking it or putting on some false airs of trying to be like a tough guy. But one of the biggest things that I see men do is how they express themselves and the way they speak that comes across as feminine. And the biggest culprit of this is the rising intonation at the end of a sentence. So for example, if you're going to say like, I really like books and I like James Bond and I love to drink whiskey and smoke cigars. So you can hear that in every freaking sentence, it's going up. And this is something so common, especially among younger guys. I'm not going to say just younger guys, because even guys that I work with that are my age, I'm in my 40s, and even dudes that I work with who are in their 40s do this too. And it has to do with simply the feminization of men and their way of thinking, their way of speaking, their way of being, their way of moving even. They are too afraid to sound masculine because of the negative connotations our society has created around that. So let me say the same things again, but just not going up in my tone at the end, okay? So I love reading books. I'm a big fan of James Bond. I like whiskey, and I love to smoke a good cigar. So it's very simple to do. And it might take you some practice because most men it's just ingrained in how you speak. Because let's look at the motivation behind it. One of the big messages that has damaged a lot of men is the message that if you are masculine, if you're direct, if you're confident, if you're bold, if you speak up, you are toxic. Okay, this is one of the things that they call toxic masculinity, which I don't believe in. There is no such thing. But this is something that gets labeled as that. And it's mainly, the reason why it's said this is because women came up with this as a way to shame men because men were calling out women on their behavior. So in order for those women to not face any consequences or be held accountable, they just said, well, hey, you're being toxic or you're shaming me, and so that must be wrong. Let me remove whenever someone holds me accountable, I'm going to flip it on them and say, hey, you're the one who's bad, so you got to stop that. And it trickled down to the way a man speaks. If he's direct, if he's decisive, that's toxic because you're being so confident makes me feel insecure, right? And so men slowly, it got whittled away from going from I love reading books to I love reading books to I love reading books. You can kind of see the progression there, right? And so you can very easily change how you come off to people. And now you're probably saying to yourself, well, I don't want to come off as toxic. Well, it doesn't. Honestly, if you say it in such a way, it's actually going to have a calming effect. It's going to have it's going to be an effect that eases people's anxieties because you sound so sure of yourself, you sound confident, and this makes other people feel comfortable. When you are teeter-tottering with your language, when you have language that's so uncertain, it actually makes the people around you, especially women, feel uncomfortable. So, for example, like let's say you're in a group of people and people are trying to decide where they want to go to lunch, and all the men are too afraid to say anything because they don't want to look like the bad guy. So they'll say like, oh, okay, well, whatever you want to do. Oh, I'm down for whatever. Oh, it's all good. Whatever you guys want to do. See how even the sound of it is so flighty and it's not stable? But if the men said something, if each man said his own opinion, like, hey, I'm really in the mood for sushi today. Hey, let's go. There's a new pizza joint that just opened up down the block. Why don't we go check that place out? It sounds like, okay, yeah, that sounds like a reasonable thing. Let's go do it. Everyone else kind of settle into it, right? And especially women, they will feel comfortable following that lead. That's their natural tendency. That's what they want to do. They want to follow a strong man, even though, they'll say that they don't and they're independent, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is they're going to comfortably follow a man who's confident. Now you might say, well, if every guy wants to do something, then how do you figure anything out? Well, just because you're saying what you want to do doesn't mean you do what you want to do, right? But at least saying what you think. But you can also, if like, let's say it's 3 guys, each of us has a different thing to do. Well, I'll show you how you can still be the leader. You can then, let's say we have a pizza guy, a hamburger guy, and a sushi guy, okay? And then you want to do the pizza, okay? Even though you originally said sushi, but you're like, I'm just going to give that up to go for pizza. Then you can simply say something along the lines of like, yeah, you know what? Let's do pizza. I've been craving some pepperoni. And now you've added to the pizza ballot in a confident, strong way, right? And this isn't necessarily about changing your mind. It's just about getting something done. If you're not beholden to having sushi, then just say, yeah, you know what? Pizza sounds great. Let's do it. Boom. Very firm, solid. You're still leading. Now, if you said like, well, I suppose we could do pizza, I guess. I mean, that looks pretty cool. See? You're agreeing, but it's very wishy-washy. It's unstable. So those are the 2 different ways in which you can say the same thing, but it has a very different read. And if you change your speech patterns to sound more like this, for sure of yourself, and to say things with a definitive tone, you're going to notice that people are going to, probably listen to you more. You'll be able to get things done more easily in ways that you'd like to get them done. And then B, you'll feel more comfortable yourself. You won't feel so teeter-tottery, and you'll feel more confident in yourself. And C, if you are considering dating women or interacting with women, you're going to notice that they somehow trust you more. They follow your lead more. They feel more secure with you, and they somehow get closer to you. Okay? When you're all flighty and up in the air and have this feminine tone, you get rid of your masculine sensibilities. Chances are the women around you then are going to have to be more masculine. They're going to have to make the decision. And so they are naturally, over time, going to become more and more masculine as you become more and more feminine. Okay? So watch the end of your sentences. Are you raising up? Are you saying, every time you say something, does it sound like a question? Or are you being firm? I love this cologne. Or are you saying, and I love this cologne, and this one, and this lighter is great? It sounds very flighty. It doesn't give off a strong masculine presence. And if you want a feminine woman in your life, you need to bring the masculine part of the relationship. You can't also bring the feminine and expect her to be feminine too. The polarity isn't there. You have the same things, feminine. There's no balance of the force, right? You need the masculine, the yin yang, right? The yin and the yang, the balance, which makes a perfect union, a perfect connection, a perfect circle. That's how you get that, okay? So if you're both masculine, no go, right? If I'm a masculine dude and the girl I'm with is very masculine, wants to dominate or wants to lead everything, I'm probably going to butt heads. But if she's more softer and wants to follow my lead and I'm leading her in a good direction, we complement each other. Now, let's make the argument. If you're a feminine guy with a masculine woman, it's very rare. Most guys are naturally going to be masculine, even though a lot of them behave feminine because they've shoved out the masculine side of themselves. Now, technically, that's balanced out, and that potentially, that could work. There are cases where that does work, as long as they're both comfortable doing that. But those are what's known as a lesbian couple, right? I mean, honestly, lesbian couples, you'll see this, a very feminine woman and the more masculine, butch lesbian woman. So it's a great example, actually, of seeing polarity in action. With the same sexes, you need the polarity still. So when you have the different sexes, you need it even. It's much more clear how necessary it is, okay? So fix that speech pattern. Get more comfortable with yourself. You'll feel better once you say it, okay? So, and if you need to practice it, honestly, do it every day for like 5 minutes into your phone. You can dictate into the recorder. Just tell yourself about your day and get used to speaking like that. And after a couple of weeks of doing it, it'll become second nature to you, and it'll be a really cool thing, and you'll feel differently. I'm 100% sure of that. All right, guys, that is it for this video. If you haven't already, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. And if you are looking to get one-on-one coaching with me, you have troubles, if you're going through a trouble in your life right now, you have a challenge that you just really need some help with, click down below. I have a brand new website with all of my coaching things listed below. It's a cool website. Check it out. Even if you're not interested in hiring me as your coach, check out the website. It's pretty cool. I'm happy about it. And last but not least, I have a free guide, which you'll see in the comments below, which is how to attract feminine women. This is just a free guide with tips on how to bring in feminine women into your life. So grab that's a free guide. All right. Okay, guys, that is it for this one. We'll see you in the next video. Cheers.